So it's shows like these that actually make me pleasantly surprised. It's shows like these that actually kind of remind me of a show like Kuro Mukuro, a show I actually wanted to, give that A- to, which I do believe I did give an A grade to, because it does everything really good, but it doesn't do anything bad. Maybe a couple things mediocre here and there, but it does everything at least good. And that show this time just happens to be Akashic Records. So what is this show actually about? So we have a teacher named Glenn Radar, who seems as if he is someone who actually is really powerful with magic, just because you get that kind of feel from him when you originally see him. We should find out he is actually a part of the Mage Corps way back when, not quite way back when, but more like a year ago, and he ends up being a substitute teacher due to one of the strongest wizards in the kingdom, or mages I should say, in the kingdom, letting him just bum off of her for a year, and then saying, hey, we got an opening, substitute teacher, you're taking it. And he ends up being a teacher that doesn't even want to teach, but then the students like Sisti and of course Rumia kind of motivate him to do the opposite. They motivate him to want to teach now rather than not to teach at all. So what this show does really well, I think, off the rip is, the way it introduces its characters is something that's I do just feel drawn to, even though their characters aren't the deepest. I think the characters are funny, and I think that's only because that Glenn is the character that really elevates the show due to his comedy. And why is his comedy so good? Why does it elevate the show? Well, do you know the voice actor for High School DxD? Do you know the voice actor for Maccabi off of Masamune Kun's Revenge? Yes, that is the voice actor for Glenn Radar, and he always hits every note perfectly. If he was singing a song, he knows how to to range his voice from really high pitch to really low pitch to this really goofy pitch that only he can do. I have not seen any other voice actor actually do that yet, but he is personally my favorite voice actor, so the show automatically did get brownie points for me just because of that simple reason. But outside of that, what does the show really have to offer for characters? Well, Rumi is the typical cute girl character, but I don't really think that matters. She may be that cliche generic character, but the way you act within that character is what makes you a good character or not. You could point to Rim from ReZero. You could point to a bad character, I would say, like Orihime from Bleach. Personally, someone who has no depth and or nothing to them except they're just this typical shy, cute girl character. As to where Rumi is not. Rumi has her own set dialogue that's just different than what from what I see from other cliche cute girl characters. Aroha is a girl from Snafu who also has some really unique dialogue, but she actually uses and abuses her cuteness to manipulate people. She is aware that her looks, her personality, the way she walks, the way she talks can manipulate people. Rumia just walks and talks in this different way completely, to where her dialogue's different. I think it's because she may be that cliche cute character, but she's also a character that is really independent. She's always that heroine in distress throughout the show, as you would will see if you watch it, but she's always independent and still standing on her own 2 feet, even in those situations, or she tries as best as she can. And that's something that I feel as if elevates her character and makes her better than a lot of other characters. Now, a character like Sisti is a character that they never really got to jump into for the first season, so I won't bash it hard for that, but there's nothing special about her whatsoever, except that she does not look like her parents, and an old friend of Glenn's who actually has died looks very similar to her. Coincidence? I don't know, but they're both part of the mage military. So I don't know. Sisters? Siblings? Maybe? I don't quite know, and I can't put my finger on it yet, but that's kind of how the show ends in general, so we'll get to that in a second. So one of the things that I think is absolutely amazing about this show, and just really makes you want to watch it, is that it's eye candy. The art on this show, to me personally, is great. I think the colors, are so dense that it makes them, I guess, vivid per se. I don't know, vibrant per se. And that's because you have these dark colors that look bright, and you have these white colors that look white, white but bright also, but the way they go together, it's as if they make each other vivid. Even though you can clearly see the different shades are darker, they just stand out, they pop out, they seem as if they're just like the sun shining into your eyes per se. And I know that sounds really corny and goofy of me saying that, but you will have to watch the show. Look at the blacks, look at the blues, look at the browns, and see how bright, how vivid they do look compared to, you know, the whites, the yellows, and other, you know, bright colors. And just look at them. They all stand out. They all seem bright, and I don't know exactly what it is. And maybe it's just because the colors are so dense. That's what I think it is. I'm not exactly sure, but you know, more times than not, that's usually what it is. I'd have to go back and look, and now that I think about it, I think that's exactly what it is. Now that I think about it, because color density, I think, is something that's so good, because it makes things look less saturated. It makes things not look saturated at all. I go watch, you know, High School DxD Blu-ray disc, and it looks absolutely amazing. The color, you know, the colors, Reese's red hair, and so on and so forth, stuff like that. It looks even better than what it does in the original anime. It does look good in that anime in general. And I'm only referring to the art for people who want to bash writing or anything. I'm only referring to the art in this case. And I think Akashic Records just does a phenomenal job at, you know, making sure these colors are dense, making sure it's not pixelated. And that's usually what it comes down to. If things are really drawn in, if the colors are dense, you can tell they went over it a few times. That equals no pixels for the most part, usually. Not every time, but usually, because, you know, depending on whether it's hand-drawn or not hand-drawn, you know, pixels play a big role in anime in general, and if something does have a lot of pixels in it, it may actually look saturated. You can, I mean, for instance, go play a video on 360p to 480p, and then you will see that, you know, you see it, you know, it's like the pixels are getting more compact, and the colors start to stand out more, and that's exactly what Akashic Records did with this. So Akashic Records was actually a show that I felt as if it got better and better as it went on. Now, Akashic Records is also a show to where I feel as if it's like, hit that note, hit that high note, hit that high note, hit that high note, and it did. Oddly enough. And when I say oddly enough, I'm really referring to it just being good, and I thought it's just going to end good too. And I know this show's light novel is really popular, even though the Blu-ray disc did not do the best, and our DVD disc, you know, DVD disc did not do it the best, which this show's really popular. It's top 10 in sales, I'm pretty sure, this year. So, in terms of a season 2, the light novel sales may just say, yeah, you're going to have one just because we want you to. So, the ending of the show shows the dark side of Akashic Records, and I'm really hoping, if you guys made it to this part in the video, what do you think at first, you know, whenever you first look at the show? Do you think it has a dark side? Well, it does. Whenever Glenn Radar actually has to protect Sisty, and as he's being reminded constantly of the girl that looks very similar to her, he does anything he has to do. These characters are, you know, kind of manipulated by this thing called angel dust, I believe it was, and to where you're dead anyways. It does not matter. You are not going to survive after you've been corrupted by this angel dust. You are nothing but basically a lifeless zombie that does this. You know, whoever casts that angel dust upon you, it's bidding. So we see him just literally cutting these people down. Blood actually coming out. It's showing blood. It's literally showing blood. It's not censored. It's uncensored. It's not like it's showing guts hang out and stuff like that, but it's just showing the cuts and the blood spew out and people getting ran through and blood going everywhere. It's not censored, and it's a show that you thought would just be vanilla like it has been. And of course the show has, you know, shown a couple cut scrapes here and there, and actually did show Glenn get ran through one time, but in this it's just all out. Yeah, I did not expect it to be this kind of show. What the hell just happened? This is a total 180. And I'm not saying it's the darkest thing ever, like ReZero, and it's not as, I guess, impactfully dark and or violent as a show like Bleach and or I guess Naruto per se, but it does meet somewhere in the middle between, I guess, a fairy tale before it introduced, you know, the uncensored version in like 2014, and Bleach and or Naruto. Somewhere in the middle there, it has that middle ground. So with that and that being said, I think Akashic Records is a show that I felt as if it was a B- to a B. I was kind of lost in between that, but the last episode alone made me say, this could be a really good show. So depending on season 2, if season 2 is announced right now, as I guess someone like Glass Reflection would say, I'm giving this show a B+. I want to see more. I want it to make me say, whoa, That's how it's done. It did that at the end of the show. That's how you present a problem. That's how you present a new character. That's how you give a character, I guess, development even per se. Whenever Sissy reaches him, and that's how you make a character that's not that good. Like Sissy elevates because she elevates our main character, which we all gravitate to. If you don't have a strong cast, if you have a strong character and you have a cast that's kind of okay, make them elevate the main character, because by doing that, usually you're going to elevate the other character through writing, characterization, character development, and maybe you'll sympathize with that character and their feelings and how they're feeling and why they're feeling the way they will. We get to see that in ReZero, except Rin was a character that was not single layered in general. So I think that this show could be the real deal and maybe be that A- that I want it to be. Maybe be one of the great shows that I love so much. I think it's a show I hold dear and I have an eye on it, but just because of the ending and how it showed it was dark and how it showed this, how it's so tasteful, how it presented it and how it was so tasteful, how it caught you off guard, it just drew me in nonetheless. So with that being said, I'm going to give Akashic Records a B+ for having great art, for having a good story all the way through, and actually having characters that have some oomph to them, like Rial, I can't remember exactly her name, and having Rumi, who is a cliche, generic character, but actually making her good within their own persona. But other than that, guys, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.